Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, and we're going to talk a little bit about tabletop gaming. We're going to talk about Warhammer and Games Workshop, making a statement against hatred and bigotry. A little bit of drama going on at a tournament. We're going to talk about that, but of course, the media, hey, they needed to renounce real monsters long ago. This is definitely an issue in tabletop gaming now, as companies that want to stay in the good graces of gamers in Portland need to issue statements regularly to make sure everyone knows that they're on the right side of history. Because it is the game developer's responsibility, the game publisher's responsibility, to make sure that everyone who purchases their games is the right kind of person. We've talked a little bit about tabletop here on the channel, and how weird the tabletop scene has gotten. And look, I don't think anybody should show up at a tournament wearing yahtzee imagery, which is apparently what happened. But also, this is, I believe, being used as sort of a toehold into getting Games Workshop to bend the knee to, again, gamers in Portland. That would be my personal opinion. We've seen it happen with other tabletop companies. We saw how TSR got dogpiled. It's a very interesting scene. Let's put it that way. So we're going to talk about that and talk about the media's reaction to it. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 242,000 subs. Thank you for the support. We do talk occasionally about tabletop gaming. Having tried to get back into tabletop gaming after a 20-plus year hiatus, right? I tried to get my kids into tabletop, and I did not realize that it was as political as it is. But there's more weirdness around the tabletop scene than even comics or video games at this point. I mean, if you are the wrong kind of person and you go to a convention like Gen Con, you can literally get punched in the head. You can be banned from a convention like Gen Con for saying the wrong things on social media. There seems to be a common thread here, right? It seems to be Gen Con. Anyway, I know Games Workshop has been kind of controversial because they've tried to stay out of politics for as long as they can. And unfortunately, what happens is you get dragged into these discussions, whether or not you want to have them. A lot of people are like, oh, Games Workshop is one of the last companies that refuses to bend the knee to the woke outrage mob. They refuse to make statements. They refuse to give the media what they want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now, trouble found them. And the media is talking about Games Workshop. And not only that there was drama at this convention, okay, and they did issue a statement, but that wasn't enough. They needed to renounce monsters long ago. They left it go too long. They didn't get political enough, fast enough for the media's liking, for Gizmodo's liking. So let's talk about this. This is coming from Polygon. Warhammer developer Games Workshop to hate groups, we don't want your money. The UK game company speaks out against hate again. On Friday, the Warhammer publisher Games Workshop posted on its official community page an unusual note titled, "The Imperium is driven by hate, Warhammer is not." The post is a strong statement from one of the largest gaming companies in the world and reads in part, "If you come to a Games Workshop event or store and behave to the contrary, including wearing the symbols of real-world hate groups, you will be asked to leave. We won't let you participate. We don't want your money. We don't want you in the Warhammer community." The statement comes after fans attending a Warhammer tournament in Spain noticed a player wearing yahtzee, a yahtzee symbol, who entered under the name Austrian Painter. Tournament organizers gave comment to tabletop wargaming site Spiky Bit, stating that the club repudiates the Yahtzee mentality in all of its aspects. Yahtzee ideas have no place in our group because they are contrary to everything we stand for. The organizer said that the player said he would not leave unless they involved the police. Okay, that's not cool. That's not cool. As displaying Yahtzee imagery is not illegal in Spain, the organizers hesitated lest this bring legal trouble upon their club. Warhammer is a dystopian sci-fi setting on a massive scale where billions die every day in the middle of a massive free-for-all between several terrifying factions, etc., etc. It is unapologetically xenophobic, and its history is riddled with more than 10,000 years of repeated brutal genocide. The Imperium of Man they're talking about, not the game. It's a setting so bleak it's often called grimdark. There are no good guys, and the heroes can only scrape out the barest wins against an uncaring, actively hostile universe. However, the imagery of the Imperium of Man has attracted a devoted following among real-world hate groups, becoming a staple of the modern meme economy of online hate. In 2019, that flashed over into the real world when a float in an Italian parade showcased Trump as the God Emperor. The artist said it was a joke, commenting on the fact that he's trying to destroy nations with the economy instead of nuclear missiles. This is one of the strongest actions, let's say, that powerful people like Trump can use. These kinds of artistic interpretations make sense, and it can happen in good faith. After all, Warhammer 40K is a setting heavily based in satire and black comedy. Yes, satire, comedy, jokes. Now, do I think it's funny to show up playing a game wearing yahtzee imagery? No, I think it's in poor taste. I would never do it. Apparently it's not illegal, though, in Spain. Go figure. Developer Games Workshop acknowledges this in a blog post. The Imperium of Man stands as a cautionary tale, kind of like Cyberpunk, cautionary tale of what could happen should the very worst of humanity's lust for power and extreme unyielding xenophobia set in. Like so many aspects of Warhammer 40K, the Imperium of Man is satirical. For clarity, satire is the use of humor, irony, or exaggeration, displaying people's vices or a system's flaws for scorn, derision, and ridicule. Something doesn't have to be wacky or laugh out loud funny to be satire. The derision is in the setting's amplification of a tyrannical, genocidal regime turned up to 11. The Imperium is not an aspirational state outside of the in-universe perspectives of those who are slaves to the system. It's a monstrous civilization, and its monstrousness is plain for all to see. That said, certain real-world hate groups and adherents of historical ideologies better left in the past sometimes seek to claim intellectual property for their own enjoyment and to co-opt them for their own agenda. Despite this, far-right groups continue to use Warhammer 40K as part of their branding. A faction of fans have infamously co-opted the Imperium's iconography in their own movements. Games Workshop has taken action before. In 2020, a YouTuber removed the Warhammer from his title. This would be Arch, at Games Workshop's request after racist rhetoric on his stream and leaked images of his Discord revealed more racist comments. This is not the first time that Games Workshop has stepped out to make its own position on hate clear. Made a similar statement via Twitter in June 2020 that read, Warhammer is for everyone. How long until the tabletop scene demands that Warhammer change everything? Because, even though it's satire, even though it's make-believe, pretend, there are some people who feel that, playing an evil character is literally doing evil things. We've seen this especially with D&D, especially with yahtzee, that there is no distinction between fantasy and reality for some people. Games Workshop has become increasingly strict with enforcing IP in recent years. Yeah, a lot of people were upset about that before any of this. Fans and creators now argue that it's too strict when it comes to fan animations and other projects online. So which is it? They're too strict about controlling their IP, or they're not strict enough in controlling their fandom? It does seem like the developer is using all the resources at its disposal to deal with the culture problem within the community of fans and encouraging local organizers to do the same. Now, not everybody's happy about this statement. Gizmodo. Warhammer 40K's creators needed to renounce real monsters long ago. The company made a statement reminding players its fictional monsters aren't aspirational after a scandal at a major tournament in Spain. Gizmodo says no matter how clearly Games Workshop states its satirical intent, practically every faction and character in Games Workshop's future world is comically foul. There's no such thing as good people working in bad systems on the level of vile, horrifying, ethical justifications made in practically any Warhammer 40k story, whether those people are alien, demonic, or human. Yet by its very nature as a brand, Games Workshop has presented it all as marketable and approachable by kids and adults alike for decades. The Space Marines are a horrifyingly evil concept, but they are the public face of Games Workshop and Warhammer. They're the stars of video games, the imagery in the windows of every Games Workshop store inviting newcomers to play, and action figures and Funko Pops. They are libraries of novels and comics written from their perspective as protagonists. They're the thing that Games Workshop has pushed as they try to bring Warhammer to audiences beyond their dedicated tabletop players, appearing in short films and at the forefront of their biggest transmedia projects. Treating factions, or perhaps pretending they don't exist the way Games Workshop has over the years, is what has fostered elements of a community that sees fascist thinking they have a place at the Warhammer table. It's all Games Workshop's fault. Oh my God, I was kidding. Yes, they want Games Workshop to renounce Warhammer and the Space Marines. Oh my God. It asks if there can be such a thing as canonically black Space Marines. It allows popular content creators to spew hateful screeds left ignored by Games Workshop at large, or memes to proliferate that lovingly cast Donald Trump as Warhammer's God Emperor. Those elements are allowed to exist and have for so long because the onus has been on the players themselves. They're the ones who protect their diverse communities from the harm precipitated in allowing far-right groups to claim Warhammer's fiction for their own aspirations. Explicitly calling to remove fascist players from its stores and tournaments is a necessary step for Games Workshop to take, but it's only the first of many that it needs to address years of this. Years of its satire lacking in the clarity of purpose and not be mistaken as acceptance of terrible deeds. They needed to apologize sooner. According to Gizmodo. I knew this was coming. Talking about Dune. Yeah, Dune was problematic, wasn't it? Talking about the scientific studies and the unfortunate reality that people will always interpret anything remotely ambiguous as agreeing with them, even if the thing explicitly does not. Stephen Colbert, etc., etc. So basically, we need to ban Warhammer because Warhammer is turning people into real-world Yahtzees. That seems to be the case. Oh, God. Here, this guy quotes Upworthy.com. You have to nip it in the bud immediately. Those guys come in, and it's always a nice, polite one, and you serve them because you don't want to cause a scene, and then they become a regular, and after a while, they bring their friends, and that dude's cool too. Then they bring friends, and friends bring friends, and they stop being cool, and then you realize, oh shit, this is a Yahtzee bar now. And it's too late because they're entrenched, and if you try to kick them out, they cause a problem. So you have to shut them down. You have to ignore their reasonable arguments because their end goal is to be terrible, awful people. You need to kick all the Yahtzees out of gaming, and you need to get Games Workshop to renounce their terrible, terrible game because their game is basically turning kids into Yahtzees. Is that what's going on here? Anyway, yeah, they're gonna keep pushing. I guarantee you, the media is gonna keep pushing until Warhammer is no more. You're in the sights now, Games Workshop, for sure. I'm gonna wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.